Join me in applauding where you are as we welcome Mr. Aaron Abke.
Great to be with you again, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Oh, so glad you're here, Aaron. Good to see you.
It's good to be back, man. Our last call was a lot of fun, so I was looking forward to our second one. I don't know why you waited so long to have me back on, but I'll forgive you for that.
Oh, we're going there.
All is forgiven, brother.
Yes. Good news. But tonight we're here to talk about the concept, not just from A Course in Miracles, but A Course in Miracles teaches it so powerfully, this idea of projection and perception. And I want you to explain it from your point of view. But before that, I just think it's so vital when people understand this. It's kind of like the ego's game is really coming to an end if you can really understand this. So if you would do us the honor, just from your heart and what it means to you.
Yeah, this is one of the central teachings of the Course, and such a pivotal one to grasp when it comes to catching the ego at work, in your life and your mind. And so, the idea we typically have when we hear the word perception is we think of perception like just pure seeing, sort of, right? I perceived the bird and the bird was what it was. And we kind of believe that projection is what happens second, where like we perceive the world, that information goes back into the mind, and then our mind distorts it and then projects another world on top of that. But the Course explains it sort of the reverse. The Course says we look inside of ourselves first and decide the kind of world we want to see, and then project that on the actual world. So we never actually see the real world. We've only ever seen the ego's world. And so that's what the Course means when it says projection makes perception. And actually on the one passage I pulled up here says, it begins by saying, the world we see merely reflects our own internal frame of reference, the dominant ideas, desires, and emotions in our minds. And then it says, we make it true by our interpretation of what it is we're seeing. If we are using perception to justify our own mistakes, anger, impulses to attack, lack of love, then we will see a world of evil, destruction, malice, and despair. So this is kind of the one somewhat confusing aspect of projection to most people, is it's the idea that when we say like, you see what you are, everything you see is your mirror, right? That can trip us up a little bit, because people will start to say, okay, so if I'm seeing somebody, committing a wrongdoing, let's say, like I watch somebody steal from the grocery store, you're telling me that that's a thief in me, that I'm the thief I'm seeing? And this is where the Course says, no, we make it true by our interpretation of what we're seeing. So there's the difference there between judgment and discernment. So projection is our judgments. We project our judgments and biases onto the world. So if I see the thief and say, oh, that piece of, what, I can't believe what a horrible person that is, the Course would say that is what's in you being projected onto the thief. But if you understand, if you have the vision of Christ and you see only Christ, then you simply see a hurting, lost person who's clearly full of negative karma that they're working out. So they're just acting out their karma. You have compassion, forgiveness, and no judgment on them. Then now you're projecting your own love and compassion onto them. Yeah. So in either case, you're only ever seeing your own state of being.
Yeah, nice. And I want to back up, because I think it was either intentional words or use of words, but even you started with saying that, we, how'd you say it? Something like, we decide what we want to see, and that's what we project. But even that deciding, it's not a conscious, it's not like a slow roll conscious choosing.
Nope.
It's so super fast that it feels like it's not me choosing it.
Yes, bingo.
And that's where it gets tricky.
That is where it gets tricky. You could say it's a subconscious decision.
Yeah.
And I think, and here's maybe a unique spin that I want to take on this concept tonight, is that when we say it's a subconscious choosing, another way we could potentially reframe that is we could say it's actually our karma that chooses.
Mm.
So we could also say that projection is actually karma in action. So projection is essentially the ego trying to get the world to line up with its own beliefs of itself. Yeah. Right? So whatever it sees that doesn't line up with how I believe about myself, my identities, if the world I see isn't living up to my identities, ego sees that as an attack on who I am. So I must force reality to bend to my will and make it reflect back to me what I wanted to say about me. So for example, if I have this identity that everyone tells me I'm smart. Oh, Aaron, you're so intelligent. Well, then that becomes an identity for ego. Ego claims that, oh, that idea enhances me. So I'm going to grab that. Now I have to make the world live up to that definition. So if somebody potentially smarter than me walks in the room and everyone starts talking about how smart, Mark is, then I have to insert myself in the conversation. Well, did you know that I actually graduated from,
Yeah.
That's how we act when we're identified with ego's images of itself, and then we project that onto the world. So in a sense, the ego can't create anything. It can only distort, right? Only God's world is real. Only the real world exists. All ego does with it is distorts it to match up with its own ideas of itself. So whatever the ego identifies with, it brings all of its karma along with it. So what I mean by that, every idea you've gained, every judgment, every bias that your ego has gained throughout your life, whatever the ego claims next, all of that karma comes along with that definition. So it's an accumulation effect, right? We gradually accumulate karma. Karma is all of ego's associations. So if we see somebody, for example, robbing a store, stealing from a store, when we don't see them as they truly are, we judge them, we project our own stuff onto them. But to have the vision of Christ is to see, oh, clearly the only reason this person is stealing right now is because they have a lot of karma. And if they have that karma, they have to act it out in some way. Yeah. So this person has simply chosen to act it out by stealing. Another person might commit a worse act. But either way, when we see them as they are, we forgive them for that because we understand they actually don't have a choice in the matter. As long as that karma is there, it must act itself out in space and time.
Oh man, I love that. I love the way you describe that. I'm gonna kind of take it in this sort of direction that's inside me because I just want to see where we go. Another word I use for that is sort of like patterns of belief, patterns of within the mind that are so habitual that it's like they choose for us. It's just impulse.
Right.
Choosing from the pattern or the karma or the belief systems. Now, when someone, and I'm interested to see what you think about this, but I'm thinking of someone who becomes an addict. The way I would describe that is the pattern, the behavior, the whatever has become so strong that it really has taken over the person, if you will, to the point where one would say they don't have any choice. Their choice is completely, and that really is the powerlessness of addiction. There's still a choosing always happening or an activation happening, but the individual is no longer, I guess, access to their free will. I'm trying to find this while I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
Are you following
me? That's a tricky one.
I know.
100%. This is what the Course means when it says the Son of God is innocent, right?
Yes.
The Son of God has never sinned. It's this idea that I must find that part of me that is always pure. And what is committing the acts of wrongdoing, we could say, is the accumulation of karma, of the ego's karma. And again, it appears like there's somebody there doing it because, oh, there's a body grabbing the item off the shelf and running out the door. So he's the doer. Yeah. But the Course explains the ego's world has to reinforce itself. Yeah. So whatever someone believes about themselves, they must act it out. So truly, I think, what's the line from the Course that says, only love is real and everything else is a cry for help?
Yes.
I think it also says you can only give or receive love. And if you give or receive anything else, you give an illusion, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's like if that person's actions aren't reflecting love, then they are insane. And no one really blames an insane person for what they're doing because they're insane. Now, that doesn't mean we don't keep dangerous people off the streets and all of that. It just means we don't hate them in our hearts for it, because that only hurts us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, yes, I love all that. And what feels important to me in this moment, and what I want people here that are listening to get, is like get out of this conversation. Like there's a little or big space of freedom for you if you will see, like, it's the karma doing this. You are the innocent one. You are, I mean, it's still, you know, we're still called to go to a 12-step meeting. We're still called to get support to become free from the karma, any way that will support that. But one of the things that keeps that damn karmic pattern in place is feeling guilty and blaming ourselves, and the ego's game to make us wrong and make us that belief system or those karmic actions. And that the ego goes, yes, now we're going for round number 792 because I got him again.
Yes.
You know?
And guilt is the way ego keeps you identified with its actions. Oh,
Yeah.
you're the doer of that, right? That's why we talk about investigating that I who says, I'm the doer, I'm guilty, I'm responsible. When you really look at that and question that, you find that you are truly innocent of it. Because at the end of the day, the question becomes, okay, like you said in the beginning, would I ever consciously create my own suffering?
Yeah.
Like, of course not. So if I'm suffering from all these things, it must be out of my own ignorance, not out of my own free will. Your true free will is love. That's all you truly want. And even to say that sounds a little fluffy and woo-woo, right? Oh, all we want is love. Love is all that's real. We're just love. And people say, oh, that's bogus. I don't believe that. So we can make it really logical just by asking a few questions. If you say, you know, what is actual free will? Like, if we had to define free will, I think a working definition we could probably all agree on would be, what I truly would want of my own free will is every action I take, every thought I think brings me happiness. If I truly had free will, I would only want to be happy, right?
Yeah.
So I think we could all agree on that. And then we say, okay, what decisions and actions and thoughts lead to happiness? And we find through our own experience, you know, I can say this, but you won't believe it till you see it in your own life, but only actions and thoughts that are rooted in love bring me happiness. Everything else brings me suffering. So slowly we just begin to choose love, right? Yeah. Because that love, the peace of God in us that we gain from acting on love rather than fear and separation, just gradually outshines the ego's thought system. It's better all around. It's an upgraded model, right? So nobody chooses the old model when the new one has arrived. You simply see this is a higher state of consciousness. This is a more advanced, more cutting edge, more freeing, more liberating state of consciousness. And that's what I want. As soon as that recognition's made, the shift happens.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really beautiful. That's really cool. I'm thinking back to, you know, a way to begin changing that shift is in the midst of it, you can, the observer in the midst of a pattern action is a profound step forward. I'm thinking back like way in my 20s when I was really in addiction and I would be going out to use and whatever I was going to do. And I remember the time when I would be sitting there in my apartment going, I don't want to do this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Like I knew the pattern. It wasn't done. It wasn't done with me. And I knew I was going to go and repeat it. But what I did, honest to God, I would pray during the whole thing. God, come with me. God, walk with me. God's walking with me. I'm not alone. Like I would do whatever I could do while I was moving through the pattern. And it was really amazing. It's literally like keeping a connection cord to the truth of spirit while that pattern is just running its course. And I believe, in my experience, I believe that ended the pattern much more quickly than having to go through more suffering. Was
100%.
Yeah, observing it and calling upon my higher power during the experience of it.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, I just share that because right back to the beginning of this conversation, for everyone listening, you know, when you're in these patterns, there is a sense of powerlessness in the moment, in the fact of, like I said, like I would go, oh, this pattern's it's going to happen. Like I would have this knowing, and that's the moment where we can break free and have some kind of healing in that experience.
Yep. That's really the premise of forgiveness, what you just described. It's choosing love over fear because you know it's true. Whether or not it feels true in the moment is really irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because truth doesn't care what you feel, right? Truth is true no matter what. So when we accept what's true, we begin to choose it. And I think there's a passage that says, the ego depends entirely on your willingness to tolerate it. So like how long you're willing to put up with suffering is as long as it'll last. And when something in you just cracks and you're like, I'm done with that pattern, that habit, that identification, it's bringing me misery, then you're just like, I'm going to choose love from now on instead of fear, instead of separation. So that pattern comes up, like you said, and something in you just goes, nope, I'm done with that. And we choose love. And really, that's all forgiveness is.
Nice. That's awesome. Quick question on that, though. Let's go back to that from your point of view. So what is the benefit from a awakening perspective, or whatever, spiritual perspective, of understanding this idea of projection perception? What is the benefit once we understand this idea?
You know, for me, the benefit's always the same thing, which is the peace of God. It's what we all want, and it's kind of the underlying motivator for everything we do. If it didn't bring us peace, we wouldn't want it, right? So what's the problem with projection if it doesn't cause suffering? But projection is the cause of all suffering. So it's really helpful on the spiritual path to start becoming aware of what's a projection. And that is the easiest thing in the world to do. All you ever have to do is pay attention to what's causing you suffering. From the greatest, despair and agony and depression, all the way down to the most minute, almost undetectable bit of stress. Like all in that entire spectrum is projection.
Yeah.
So as soon as you suffer, say, oh, what am I projecting right now? Yeah. And you're seeing something as it actually is, as the Course says, the real world, because it only brings you peace when you look upon it. Even to see some, a transgressor, somebody committing some horrible act, if you can see them as they are in that moment, even then you can still have peace.
Yeah. Aaron, that's a fantastic answer. I love it. Because,
good, I'm glad.
Yeah, because you broke it down. I want to repeat it just because this is what's so cool. I get so excited when it's simple. Projection is the cause of suffering.
Yep.
That's it. And so if you're in suffering, you know why. Like, it's not a mystery any longer. I mean, we can make it complex, and we can dissect it, and my mom did this and blah, 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 stories, but really the simple, we don't need any of that. We could just pay attention and go, oh, something doesn't feel right. What's projection doing here? Isn't that cool?
What does the Course say? It says, I suffer because I see what is not there.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. It really is. It
is that easy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is that easy. So I mentioned earlier, Aaron and I are facilitating Forgive 2020 challenge. We are self-defined forgiveness junkies, and we just love talking about that. And it was like, man, with this crazy year and all that we've moved through together, let's do a forgiveness challenge. And it just kind of came up between us. So we both said yes. That challenge is happening November 16th. It's only 4 nights, 4 days. And we are creating such an amazing program for you over those 4 days. We've got a whole strategy of how this is going to happen, beginning with first day, forgiving yourself. Second day, forgiving others. Third day, forgiving the world. And fourth day, forgiving God. So every morning, you're going to be given a 20-minute guided meditation that activates the forgiveness process and focus for the day with a mantra to just keep running through your mind and keeping fresh before you throughout the day. And then in the evening, we're going to come together, Aaron and I and you, and we're going to do a teaching on Course in Miracles components that support what is forgiveness, more about the projection perception game. We're going to talk about the atonement, which is such a cool conversation, and then ending with this amazing purifying process of forgiveness with vision. God's vision. What is that for you? We're really taking you through a whole journey with this practice of forgiveness. I'm geeked about it. I'm so excited. And we really want every one of you right now, tonight, to join us for that. So that's my pitch on it. Anything else you want to add?
I just want to say, guys, you're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be incredible. We're not going to, let the cat out of the bag yet, but we've been working on this challenge for a number of weeks, and just, you can speak to this too, Mark, the amount of revelation and downloads and insights that have come from us just chewing on this challenge. It's like so clearly something that the universe wanted to be born, and we just are the carriers of it. So we want as many people in this challenge as possible, because we're really trying to kind of make a global impact through this challenge. Just like the studies they've done where they have like a group of 100 or something monks meditate in a city. They literally watch the crime rates drop in that city over the course of the week. We know that collective consciousness has a huge impact on the collective vibration. So if we get a few thousand of us coming together, healing, loving, forgiving, blessing 2020 and releasing it back to God, we just feel like we can really kind of turn the ball in the right direction as we head into 2021. And we're really excited about the teachings, especially for this challenge. So please don't miss it, and get as many people as you know there as possible.